Don't call me John. I'm not your property. Olivia's voice cuts through the phone like a knife, and for a moment I forget how to breathe. It's 12:47 a.m., and this is the 9th time I've called her tonight. The 9th time. My hand is shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. What did you just say to me? My voice comes out cold, unrecognizable even to myself. You heard me. Stop suffocating me. I can do what I want. She's breathing hard like she's been running, or like she's angry I interrupted something. That thought makes my stomach turn. 3 hours ago, my neighbor Dave told me something that shattered my world. He told me he'd seen my wife, my Olivia, going into another man's house. 742 Maple Street. 2 streets over from where we live. The house belongs to Reid, her coworker. Dave said she'd been there multiple times, staying for hours. Hours. While I sat at home like an idiot, trusting her, believing her lies about working late. I'm parked outside that house right now. I've been here since 10 p.m. watching, waiting, hoping Dave was wrong. But at 10:37, Olivia's silver Honda pulled up. I watched her check her surroundings, she didn't see me, and knock on that door. I watched Marcus open it, pull her inside, his hand on the small of her back in a way that told me everything. That touch was familiar. Practiced. This wasn't the first time. That was 2 hours ago. Where are you right now, Olivia? I ask, my voice eerily calm now. That's none of your, I'm out, okay? God, this is so suffocating. I can hear music in the background. Voices. His voice. Something inside me dies and something else, something harder, colder, takes its place. I think about the man I used to be, the man who promised himself he'd never be controlling like his father. My dad drove my mother away with his paranoia and accusations. I swore I'd be different. I'd be the understanding husband, the trusting one. Look where that got me. Perfect, I say, and my voice is ice. Then don't think about coming back home. What? John, what are you? I hang up. My hand is steady now. I stare at that house, at the warm light glowing from the second-floor window, and I make a decision that will change both our lives forever. I'm not my father. I won't beg, won't scream, won't demand. I'll simply stop being the fool who waits. I start the car and drive home, leaving her there with him. My phone buzzes immediately, Olivia calling back. I decline it. She calls again. Decline. Again. Decline. By the time I pull into our driveway, she's called 6 more times. I walk into our empty house and don't feel sad. I feel clarity. Please, before I continue, kindly like, share and subscribe for more interesting videos. 3 weeks before that phone call, everything seemed normal. That's what kills me now, how normal it all seemed. I was blind, stupid, trusting. I was everything a cheater dreams of in a husband. It started small. Olivia came home at 9 p.m. instead of her usual 6:30. I had dinner ready, her favorite chicken parmesan with that garlic bread she loves. I'd spent an hour cooking it after getting home from the construction site, wanting to surprise her after what she'd said was a stressful week at work. Hey babe, perfect timing. I called out when I heard her keys in the door. Dinner's ready. She walked in distracted, eyes glued to her phone, thumbs moving fast across the screen. She was smiling at whatever she was reading, this little secret smile I hadn't seen in months. When she finally looked up and saw me standing there with oven mitts on, the smile vanished like I'd caught her doing something wrong. Oh John. I already ate. Work meeting ran late and they ordered in. She barely met my eyes. You could have texted me, I said, trying not to sound hurt. I've been cooking for an hour. I'm sorry, okay? God, I can't text you every single second of my day. She snapped it like I'd accused her of something, defensive in a way that felt wrong. I'm going to take a shower. She brushed past me and I caught it, a smell I didn't recognize. Men's cologne. Sharp, expensive, nothing like what I wear. But I pushed the thought away because that's what you do when you trust someone completely. You make excuses. You gaslight yourself before they even have to. The next night she came home at 10 p.m. Then 10:30. Then 11. Each time with the same excuse. New project at work. Big client. You know how it is. And I did know. Olivia was dedicated to her career. She'd worked hard to become a senior marketing executive at Morrison & Associates. I was proud of her. I'd supported every late night, every weekend workshop, every business trip. But this felt different. I remember the night I found the receipt. It was a Tuesday and she'd come home at 11:15 claiming she'd been at the office. I was taking the trash out when I noticed her car door was slightly open. I went to close it and saw a crumpled receipt on the passenger floor. Mancini's Restaurant. Date, Tuesday, 8:47 p.m. Total, $67.43 for 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine. My heart started pounding. If she'd been at work until 11, why was there a restaurant receipt from 8:47? And for 2 people? I went back inside and found her in our bedroom, already in her pajamas, scrolling through her phone with that same secret smile. "Hey, did you grab dinner out tonight?" I asked casually, holding the receipt. Her eyes flashed to it and I saw something I'd never seen before: panic. Just for a second, but it was there. "Oh yeah. Work dinner. With a client." She took the receipt from my hand and crumpled it tighter. "Why?" "Just wondering. You said you were at the office." "We met the client at a restaurant, John." "Is this an interrogation?" Her voice had an edge now, sharp and defensive. "Because it feels like you're checking up on me." "I'm not checking up." "Really?" "Because finding receipts in my car and questioning me about work dinners sure feels like it." She stood up and I could see she was genuinely angry now, like I was the one in the wrong. "I need space to do my job without feeling like I have to report every single movement to you. This is suffocating." That word. Suffocating. She'd use it again later, screaming it at me through the phone at 12:47 a.m. while she was in another man's house. But that night it made me back down. It made me apologize. "You're right. I'm sorry. I just miss you, that's all. Feels like we barely see each other anymore." She softened slightly, came over and kissed my forehead like I was a child who'd said something cute. "I miss you too. This project will be done soon and things will go back to normal. I promise." I believed her. God help me, I believed her. The text came 2 days after I found that receipt. I was at a job site, reviewing blueprints for a commercial building downtown, when my phone buzzed. "Dave Mitchell, my neighbor. Can we talk? Saw something tonight. It's important." Dave was a retired detective who'd moved in next door about a year ago. We'd become friends over weekend barbecues and beer. He was a quiet guy, kept to himself mostly, but good people. He'd lost his daughter 5 years back. She took her own life after discovering her husband's affair. Dave blamed himself for not seeing the signs, for not warning her. Since then, he had this almost obsessive attention to detail when it came to relationships and betrayal. I used to think it was sad. Now I think it might have saved my life. I met him at Jerry's Diner that evening, a small place on the edge of town where nobody we knew would see us. He was already sitting in a corner booth when I arrived, coffee going cold in front of him, looking like he hadn't slept. The moment I saw his face, I knew whatever he had to say would hurt. "Just tell me," I said, sliding into the booth across from him. He took a long breath and I saw his hands were shaking slightly. This man had been a detective for 25 years, had seen things that would break most people, and he was nervous to talk to me. That's when I really got scared. "I saw Olivia last night," he started, not meeting my eyes. "I was driving back from Oak Hill Cemetery. I visit my daughter's grave every Tuesday evening. It's become a ritual talking to her, telling her about my week." He paused, gathering courage. "I was coming back around 10:30, and I saw Olivia's car parked at 742 Maple Street. You know that house?" I shook my head, my throat going dry. "It's 2 streets over from us. Nice place, belongs to a guy named Marcus Reid. I only know because I make it my business to know the neighborhood." He finally looked at me and I saw something in his eyes I'll never forget, pity mixed with anger. "John," I watched her park, check her surroundings and knock on that door. A man answered. Mid-30s, fit, well-dressed. They hugged. It wasn't a friendly hug. It was long, intimate. His hand was on her lower back. Then she went inside. My world tilted. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. Maybe it's a colleague. Maybe they're working on something. At 10:30 at night? In his house. Dave's voice was gentle but firm. "John," I waited. I sat in my car for 2 hours. She didn't come out until 12:40 a.m. 2 hours, son. I felt like I was going to be sick. My Olivia. My wife who'd promised she'd never give me reason to doubt her. "This Marcus guy, you said his name is Marcus Reid?" "Yeah." I ran a quick background check. Old habits. He works at Morrison and Associates. Same company as Olivia. Marcus Reid. The name hit me like a freight train. I knew exactly who he was. He'd been at our wedding 5 years ago, one of Olivia's co-workers she'd insisted we invite. I remembered shaking his hand at the reception, remembered how he'd looked at her that day, remembered him saying, "Olivia's special. You're a lucky man." I thought he was just being nice. Now those words felt like a threat I'd been too stupid to hear. "This wasn't the first time," Dave continued, pulling out his phone. "I've seen her car there 3 other times over the past 2 weeks. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure, until I had proof. I know what accusations like this can do to a marriage if they're wrong. But John, I attended your wedding. I was there when you two moved into that house, when you were carrying boxes and laughing about your future. I can't keep this from you. Not after what happened to my daughter. He showed me his phone, photos he'd taken, dates and timestamps. Olivia's car parked outside that house. One photo showed her and Marcus in the doorway, his arm around her waist. The image was grainy but unmistakable. That was my wife. In another man's arms. I'm so sorry, Dave said quietly. I know this destroys everything. But you deserve to know the truth. I sat there staring at those photos, feeling something fundamental break inside me. I thought about my father, about how his paranoia and controlling behavior had driven my mother away when I was 12. I'd sworn I'd never be like him. I'd be the understanding husband, the trusting one, the man who gave his wife space and freedom. And this is where it got me. Give me the address, I finally said, my voice hollow. Dave wrote it down on a napkin. 742 Maple Street. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But I need to see it for myself. I told myself I wouldn't go there. I told myself Dave might be wrong, that there could be an explanation, that my wife deserved the benefit of the doubt. I told myself a lot of lies that day. By 9 p.m., I was parked across the street from 742 Maple Street, slouched down in my truck, watching a house that held my marriage hostage. The neighborhood was quiet, tree-lined, upper-middle class. Marcus Reid's house was a two-story colonial with a manicured lawn and expensive cars in the driveway, a BMW and a Mercedes. This guy had money, the kind of money I'd never have working construction. Was that what Olivia wanted? Someone more successful, more polished, more exciting than the husband who came home covered in dust and concrete? 9 p.m. became 9:30. I told myself she wouldn't come. Maybe Dave had been wrong about tonight. Maybe she really was working late like she texted me 2 hours ago. Big presentation tomorrow, staying at office. Don't wait up. Love you. That last part, love you, felt like a knife now. At 10:37 p.m., my phone buzzed with another text from her. Still here, probably another hour. Sorry, baby. I stared at that message and then I saw them, headlights turning onto Maple Street. A silver Honda. Olivia's car. My heart stopped. I watched my wife park 2 houses down from Marcus's place, watched her check her makeup in the rearview mirror, watched her look around nervously, left, right, behind her. She didn't see me. I'd positioned my truck in a spot with heavy shadows, and she wasn't looking for me anyway. Why would she? I was the trusting fool at home. She got out, smoothed down her dress, a black dress I'd never seen before, form-fitting and expensive looking, and walked to his door. She didn't hesitate. This wasn't her first time here. She knocked twice, a pattern. Their signal maybe. The door opened and Marcus Reid stood there backlit by warm interior light. He was exactly as Dave had described, mid-30s, tall, athletic build, the kind of guy who probably spent his mornings at the gym and his evenings destroying marriages. He smiled when he saw her, this intimate smile that made my hands clench into fists. Then he pulled her inside, his hands sliding to the small of her back, and the door closed behind them. I sat in that truck for the next 2 hours, barely breathing, watching the lights in his house. I saw shadows moving past second-floor windows. I imagined what they were doing, and each image was torture. This was my wife. The woman I'd built a life with, the woman I'd sacrificed for, the woman who'd stood at an altar and promised to forsake all others. At 11:30 I called her. It rang 6 times before going to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I called 8 times total, and each time felt like another piece of my heart being ripped out. On the 9th call she finally answered. Her voice was breathless, annoyed, like I was an inconvenience interrupting something important. And that's when she said the words that would end everything. Don't call me John. I'm not your property. I sat in that truck after hanging up on her, watching her car still parked on that street, and I felt something crystallize inside me. This wasn't rage. Rage would have been easier. This was clarity. Cold, sharp, absolute clarity. My grandfather's words came back to me, something he'd told me before he died. A man who doesn't protect his dignity has nothing left to give. I started my truck and drove home, leaving her there. My phone lit up immediately, Olivia calling back. I declined it. She called again and again and again. 15 times before I got home. I declined every single one. Olivia came home at 3:47 a.m. I know because I was awake, sitting at our kitchen table in the dark, and I heard her car pull into the driveway. I heard her fumbling with her keys, heard the door open quietly like she was trying not to wake me. I stayed silent, motionless in the darkness, and listened to her creep upstairs to our bedroom. I didn't follow her. I sat there until the sun came up, watching the light change through our kitchen windows, thinking about 7 years of my life and how quickly it had all become a lie. Around 6 a.m., I heard her alarm go off upstairs. Normal morning sounds, shower running, hairdryer, her getting ready for work like this was just another day. She came downstairs at 7:15, dressed in her usual work clothes, makeup perfect, ready to pretend everything was fine. She stopped short when she saw me sitting there, coffee mug in hand, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Jesus, John, you scared me. She put a hand to her chest, playing the startled wife. Did you sleep down here? I looked at her, really looked at her, and wondered how I'd missed it. The way she wouldn't meet my eyes. The slight guilt in her voice, hidden under false cheerfulness. The new perfume she was wearing that wasn't for me. Where were you last night? I asked calmly. I told you, working late. We've been over this. She moved to the coffee maker, pouring herself a cup with shaking hands. She was nervous. Good. What time did you leave the office? I don't know, midnight maybe? Why are you interrogating me first thing in the morning? She turned to face me, going on offense like she always did when backed into a corner. I'm exhausted, John. I don't need this right now. You told me you were at the office. So if I call your coworker Jennifer right now, she'll confirm you were there until midnight. Her face went pale. You're going to call my coworkers? Are you insane? Do you know how that would make me look? Then tell me the truth, Olivia. Where were you? I was at the office. She was nearly shouting now. God, what has gotten into you? Ever since I started this new project, you've been paranoid and clingy and suffocating. I can't breathe in this marriage anymore. There was that word again. Suffocating. Like I was the problem. Like my expecting basic honesty was some kind of oppression. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this house. Right now. She laughed, actually laughed. This is my house too, John. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. I stood up, and she must have seen something in my face that scared her because she took a step back. You want freedom? You want to not feel suffocated? Congratulations. You're free. Get your shit and leave. You're being crazy. I'm not leaving because you're having some kind of paranoid episode. But her voice wavered. She was scared now, realizing maybe she'd pushed too far. I know about Marcus Reid. I know about 742 Maple Street. I know you were there last night from 10:37 p.m. until 3:30 a.m. I watched her face crumble as I spoke. So you have two choices. You can leave now voluntarily, or I can make this much worse for you. Your call. She stood there frozen, coffee mug trembling in her hand, all her lies stripped away. John, please let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You made your choice. Now live with it. I walked past her toward the stairs. You have 1 hour to pack a bag. After that, I'm changing the locks. I called in sick to work that day, first time in 3 years. Instead, I spent the morning sitting in attorney Robert Matthews' office, a man Dave had recommended. Robert specialized in divorce cases, particularly ones involving infidelity. His office smelled like leather and old books, and his walls were covered with degrees and certifications that should have made me feel confident. Instead, I just felt numb. How long has the affair been going on? Robert asked, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. I don't know. Weeks? Months? Maybe longer. I realized how stupid that sounded. I trusted her. I didn't think to question anything until recently. That's normal, Robert said without judgment. Most people don't see it coming. That's what makes infidelity so devastating. It's a betrayal of trust at the deepest level. He leaned back in his leather chair, studying me. Tell me everything you know. Every detail, every suspicion, every piece of evidence. I told him about the late nights, the receipt, Dave's observations, the photos, the stakeout, watching her enter Marcus's house. I told him about the phone call, about her words, I'm not your property, and how something inside me had simply shut off. Good, Robert said when I finished. That cold clarity you're feeling? That's going to save you in this process. Emotion makes people do stupid things in divorces. You're past the emotion. Now we work strategically. He tapped his pen against his pad. Here's what we're going to do. Virginia is a fault-based divorce state, which means adultery matters. If we can prove the affair, and it sounds like we can, you'll have significant leverage in the settlement. I don't want her money, I said. I just want her to understand what she's lost. Robert smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Oh, she will. Trust me. When this is done, she'll understand perfectly. He pulled out a folder. First thing, we document everything. I want you to write down every instance you can remember, Dates, times, suspicious behavior. I want you to get me Dave's photos. If there are any text messages, emails, anything that proves or suggests the affair, I want copies. What about confronting her? Confronting him? Don't, Robert said firmly. Not yet. Right now they don't know what you know or what you're planning. That's your advantage. The moment you confront them, they'll start covering their tracks, deleting evidence, coordinating their stories. We don't want that. We want them comfortable, careless, making mistakes. He pulled out divorce papers already partially filled out. I'm going to file these this week. We'll have her served at work. Public humiliation is part of the consequence of her actions. We'll ask for the house, the majority of assets, everything we can get. Even if we don't get it all, we start from a position of strength. I signed where he indicated, my hand steady. Each signature felt like closing a door on one life and opening another. One more thing, Robert said as I stood to leave. She's going to try to come back. When reality hits, when Marcus realizes what he's gotten himself into and backs away, because men like him always do, she's going to want to reconcile. She'll cry, apologize, promise to change, tell you it meant nothing. You need to be prepared for that. I won't take her back, I said with certainty. I believe you. But it's harder than you think when you're face to face with someone you loved. Just remember, she didn't make one mistake. She made dozens, hundreds of choices that led to betraying you. Every lie, every late night, every time she looked you in the eye and deceived you, those were all choices. Don't let her rewrite history. I left his office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Power. Not over her, but over myself. Control over my own destiny instead of being a passenger in someone else's betrayal. The next 3 days were the strangest of my life. I went through the motions, went to work, came home, ate dinner alone, watched TV I didn't process. But underneath the normalcy, I was gathering evidence like my life depended on it. Because in a way it did. This was about more than divorce proceedings. This was about proving to myself that I wasn't crazy, that my instincts had been right all along. I went through our cell phone records online. Olivia didn't know I had access to the account. Pages and pages of calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize, usually late at night after she told me she was going to bed. I cross-referenced the number, Reid's cell phone. Some nights, they'd talk for an hour or more while she was supposedly sleeping next to me in our bed. How had I not noticed? Had she been texting him while lying beside me? I checked our credit card statements. Charges I'd never questioned before now told a story I'd been too blind to see. Victoria's Secret purchases I'd never seen her wear. Hotel charges in our own city for business meetings. Restaurant bills for 2 at places we'd never been together. The most damaging, a charge at a jewelry store for $347. I called them, pretending to verify a purchase. They confirmed, men's watch engraved. I'd never received a watch. In our closet, I found clothes I'd never seen her wear, sexy dresses, lingerie with tags still on, pushed to the back where I wouldn't notice. A new perfume bottle, 3/4 empty, that definitely wasn't the one she wore around me. A receipt tucked in a purse she thought I'd never search. Plan B emergency contraception, purchased 3 weeks ago. That receipt made me sit down on our bedroom floor and put my head in my hands. Not from sadness anymore. From disgust. She hadn't even been careful with him. She'd been reckless, desperate, so caught up in whatever fantasy she was living that she'd forgotten to cover her tracks. I took photos of everything. I documented it all in a folder on my laptop, labeled Evidence, each file meticulously dated and categorized. Robert had taught me to think like a detective, build an airtight case. Leave no room for doubt. On the 3rd night, Olivia came home just after midnight. She'd been staying at her friend Kelly's apartment, or so she claimed. She looked exhausted, her makeup smudged, her confidence shattered. She found me in the living room working on my laptop. "John, can we please talk?" Her voice was small, defeated. "There's nothing to talk about," I said without looking up. "Please. I know I messed up. I know you're angry. But this is our marriage. Don't we owe it to 5 years to at least try?" I finally looked at her. "You want to try? Okay. Tell me the truth. How long have you been sleeping with Reid?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I'm not, that's not." "How long, Olivia?" She started crying, these theatrical sobs that might have worked on me a week ago. "It didn't mean anything, John. I swear. I was confused and lonely and he was just there and—" "How long?" "6 weeks," she whispered. "But it's over now. I ended it. I told him we couldn't do this anymore." 6 weeks. 6 weeks of lies, of her coming home and kissing me with the same mouth that had kissed him. 6 weeks of her sleeping in our bed after sleeping in his. 6 weeks of me being the idiot who trusted her. Get out, I said calmly. John, please. You have 5 seconds before I call the police and tell them you're trespassing. She left, sobbing, slamming the door behind her. I sat there in the silence and felt nothing. That was the scariest part. Not that I was angry or hurt anymore, but that I felt absolutely nothing for the woman I'd loved for 7 years. I texted Olivia 5 days later, meet me at Marcelo's tomorrow, 7 p.m. We need to talk about how to move forward. She responded immediately, thank you. I'll be there. I love you. I didn't respond to that. Well, what a meaningless word when it came from someone who'd betrayed every promise it represented. Marcelo's was the Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date 7 years ago. I chose it deliberately. I wanted her to remember what we'd been, what she'd destroyed. I arrived early, got a corner booth, and waited with a manila envelope sitting on the table in front of me. She walked in at exactly 7 p.m. and I could see she'd prepared for this. She wore the blue dress I'd always loved, had her hair down the way I preferred, wore the perfume she knew was my favorite, not the new one she wore for him. She'd painted herself as the Olivia I'd fallen in love with, hoping to manipulate me with nostalgia. Hi, she said softly, sliding into the booth across from me. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't agree to anything. I called this meeting. I pushed the envelope across the table. Open it. Her hands trembled as she lifted the flap and pulled out the papers inside. I watched her face as she read the top page, petition for divorce. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears. John, no. Please, we can fix this. Keep reading. She flipped through the pages and I saw the moment she reached the evidence section. Photos of her car outside Marcus's house. Printouts of phone records. Credit card statements. The receipt for Plan B. Her face went from pale to gray. How did you really think I'd just roll over? That I'd be the pathetic husband who takes you back because I'm too weak to be alone? I kept my voice low, even devoid of emotion. You made a fool of me, Olivia. For 6 weeks, probably longer, you looked me in the eye every day and lied. You slept next to me and texted him. You said you loved me while fucking someone else. Don't, she whispered. Please don't. Why? Because it hurts to hear the truth? Because it makes you feel like the person you actually are? I leaned forward. You told me I was suffocating you. You said you weren't my property. You were right. You're not. And I'm not your safety net anymore. I made a mistake, she sobbed. One mistake. Don't throw away 7 years because of one mistake. One mistake. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to the phone records I'd saved. You called him 247 times in 6 weeks. That's not one mistake. That's 247 choices to betray me. Every call, every text, every lie, those were choices. She was crying so hard now she could barely speak. What about our vows? For better or worse? You broke those vows the first time you kissed him. I'm just making it official. I stood up, threw 2 20s on the table. Sign the papers, Olivia. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'll keep your car, your personal belongings, and whatever dignity you have left. I get the house, the savings, everything else. You're lucky I'm being this generous. This is my home too, she said desperately. You can't just take everything. Watch me. You committed adultery in a fault-based divorce state. My lawyer assures me I'll get everything I'm asking for, maybe more. So you have 2 choices. Sign what I'm offering now or fight me in court and leave with nothing. I walked toward the door, leaving her sobbing in that booth. As I reached the exit, I heard her call out, I love you, John. I still love you. I didn't turn around. No, you don't. You love the security I provided. You love having a backup plan while you played house with someone else. That's not love. That's cowardice. 2 weeks later, Dave called me. Thought you'd want to know. Saw Olivia at Marcus Reid's house again last night. She was there for maybe 20 minutes, then left. Looked like she'd been crying. I didn't feel jealous or angry. I felt curious, detached. Thanks for letting me know. What I didn't know until later, until Olivia herself told me in a moment of desperate honesty, was what happened that night. She'd gone to Marcus looking for support, for the love she claimed their affair had been built on. She needed to believe it had meant something, that she hadn't destroyed her marriage for nothing. Marcus had answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, clearly not expecting her. Liv, what are you doing here? Can I come in? I need to talk to you. She'd been staying at Kelly's apartment, sleeping on a couch, working a job she hated while her life fell apart. She needed him to be her salvation. Actually, this isn't a good time. I have someone coming over. Someone. The word had hit her like a slap. Who? Just a friend. Look, what did you need? She'd stood there on his doorstep, this man she'd risked everything for, and realized he'd already moved on. I'm getting divorced. Because of us. Because of what we did. Yeah, I heard. He'd had the decency to look uncomfortable. I'm sorry about that. But Liv, you have to understand, what we had was fun, but it was never going to be more than that. I thought you knew. Fun. She'd felt her world tilting. I left my marriage for you. You left your marriage because you were unhappy. That's on you, not me. He'd stepped back, hand on the door like he was ready to close it. I'm not looking for anything serious right now. I thought that was clear. You told me you loved me, she'd said desperately. I said what you wanted to hear. We both did. His voice had been kind, almost pitying. Look, you're great, but I'm not ready for the drama of a divorce and the whole rebound relationship thing. It's better if we just end this clean. He'd closed the door in her face. Left her standing there, alone, realizing she'd burned down her entire life for a man who'd never cared about her at all. She was the other woman who'd believed the fantasy, and now she had nothing. No husband, no home, no dignity, and no Marcus. I learned all this later, during one of her desperate attempts to get me to understand what she'd lost. She wanted me to feel sorry for her, to see her as a victim too. But all I felt was the cold satisfaction of knowing the universe had its own way of delivering justice. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. 4 months of lawyers and paperwork and dividing up a life we'd built together. Olivia fought me at first, tried to claim she deserved half of everything despite the affair. Her lawyer made arguments about joint assets and equitable distribution. Robert Matthews demolished every argument with evidence I'd gathered. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor on nearly every point. I got the house, the savings, the good car. Olivia got her Honda, her personal belongings, and enough money to cover first and last month's rent on an apartment. The judge had looked at her with barely concealed disgust when reading the evidence of her affair. Mrs. Andrew, the judge had said, you violated the sanctity of your marriage through deliberate, sustained infidelity. This court finds that you acted in bad faith and awards the majority of marital assets to Mr. Andrew. Olivia had sat there, deflated, broken, as her lawyer whispered that this was the best outcome they could hope for. She'd signed the papers with shaking hands, and just like that, 7 years of marriage ended with a pen stroke. But the real punishment wasn't financial. It was social. Word had spread, through Dave, through mutual friends, through her coworkers who'd witnessed her being served divorce papers at the office. Everyone knew. She'd become that woman, the one who'd cheated on her good husband with a coworker. Her friends distanced themselves. Her parents barely spoke to her, ashamed of what their daughter had done. Her career stalled because nobody trusted her anymore. I heard through the grapevine that she'd been demoted at work, not officially for the affair but for restructuring. She'd lost her corner office and her senior title. Marcus Reid still worked there, already dating someone new, pretending Olivia had never existed. She'd see him in the hallways and remember what she'd sacrificed for 6 weeks of attention from a man who'd never cared. Meanwhile, my life improved. I threw myself into work, got promoted to senior project manager. I started going to the gym with Dave, getting in the best shape of my life. I traveled, took that Paris trip alone and actually enjoyed it. I went on dates, nothing serious, just reminders that there were good people in the world who wouldn't destroy me for fun. I didn't think about Olivia much anymore. When I did, it was with the distant curiosity you might feel about a stranger's life. She wasn't my problem anymore. She was just a lesson I'd learned about trust and self-respect. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Olivia at Cornerstone Coffee, a local place we used to go to on Sunday mornings. I hadn't seen her since the day we'd signed the papers. I was there meeting someone, Sarah, a woman I'd started seeing casually, someone kind and honest who made me remember what healthy relationships felt like. I was standing in line when I heard her voice. John? I turned and for a moment I barely recognized her. She'd aged in 6 months, looked tired and smaller somehow. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of the styled waves she used to wear. No makeup. Cheap clothes from Target instead of the designer brands she'd preferred. She looked like someone who'd been through a war and lost. Olivia, I said neutrally. You look good, she said, and I could hear the pain in her voice. Really good. Happy. I am. She glanced past me and saw Sarah sitting at a table, scrolling through her phone, waiting for me. Something flickered across Olivia's face. Jealousy, regret, loss. Is that your friend? I said, though it was becoming more than that. We're having coffee. Right. Of course. She looked down at her hands. John, I know I don't have the right to ask, but could we talk? Just for a minute? I should have said no. Should have walked away. But something in her broken voice made me agree. 5 minutes. We sat at a table in the corner, away from Sarah. Olivia wrapped her hands around her coffee cup like she was trying to absorb its warmth. I'm sorry, she started. I know I've said it before, but I need you to hear it again. I'm so sorry for everything. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was selfish and stupid and I didn't appreciate what I had until it was gone. Okay, I said simply. Okay? That's all you have to say. What do you want me to say, Olivia? That I forgive you? I do. Not for you, for me. I needed to let go of the anger because it was poisoning me. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I know. Tears started falling and she didn't bother wiping them away. I've lost everything. My job, my friends, my family barely speaks to me. I'm living in a studio apartment and working retail because no one in marketing will hire me after what happened. Marcus won't even look at me in the hallway. I'm completely alone. I'm sorry you're hurting, I said, and I meant it. Not because I wanted her back, but because I wasn't a cruel person. But those are consequences of your choices. I know they are. I just thought, God, I don't know what I thought. That maybe we could try again? That maybe enough time had passed. I looked at this woman I'd once loved more than anything, and I felt nothing but sadness for her. No, Olivia. That door closed the night you told me you weren't my property. You were right, you weren't. But I wasn't yours to use and discard either. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. Maybe not consciously, but every choice you made prioritized your wants over our marriage. Every lie, every late night, every time you came home and kissed me after being with him, those all hurt me. You just didn't care enough to stop. She was sobbing now, quiet, desperate sobs that drew looks from other customers. Is there any chance? Any possibility that someday? No, I said gently but firmly. I hope you find happiness, Olivia. I hope you learn from this and become a better person. But it won't be with me. I deserve someone who chooses me every day, not someone I have to watch constantly to make sure they're not betraying me again. I stood up and she grabbed my hand. Please, John. I love you. I still love you. I looked down at her hand on mine and carefully removed it. No, you love the idea of what we had. You love the security and stability I represented. But you don't love me. If you did, you never would have done what you did. I walked back to Sarah, who looked up with concern. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, and I meant it. Everything's fine. Just closing an old chapter. As we left the coffee shop, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Olivia was my past, and I'd learned what I needed to from that pain. I'd learned that trust is earned, that love requires action, not just words, and that sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is walking away from someone who doesn't value you. 3 months after that coffee shop encounter, I was standing in my backyard, the backyard of the house I'd fought to keep, watching Dave man the grill at a small barbecue I was hosting. Sarah was inside making her famous potato salad, laughing with some friends from work. The sun was setting, painting everything gold, and I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year, genuine contentment. You doing okay? Dave asked, flipping burgers with the expertise of someone who'd grilled 1,000 meals. Yeah, I said. I really am. Sarah seems great. Really great. She is. And she was. Sarah was a project coordinator at a firm I'd partnered with on a commercial development. We'd met at a work dinner, started talking about architecture and design, and discovered we had the same sense of humor. She was divorced too. Her ex-husband had been abusive, so she understood broken trust and the work it took to rebuild. We took things slow, honest, building something real instead of rushing into false intimacy. I'm proud of you, you know, Dave said quietly. A lot of men would have become bitter, would have let that betrayal poison them against all women. You didn't. You healed. I had good friends, I said, clapping him on the shoulder. Thank you. For telling me. For caring enough to get involved. I could not tell you. Not after what happened to my daughter. His voice got thick. She didn't have anyone watching out for her, warning her. I couldn't let the same thing happen to you. Sarah came outside carrying the potato salad, and her face lit up when she saw me. That look, genuine happiness at just seeing me exist, was something I'd forgotten could exist. With Olivia toward the end, I'd felt like an obligation. With Sarah, I felt like a choice she made gladly every day. That night, after everyone left and Sarah and I were cleaning up, she asked, "Do you ever think about her? Your ex?" I considered lying, but Sarah deserved honesty. Sometimes. Not in a longing way. More like, wondering if she ever really understood what she threw away. Does it matter if she does? No, I realized. It doesn't. Her understanding or lack of it doesn't change my life anymore. I'm happy. That's what matters. Sarah kissed me soft and sweet and real. Good. Because you deserve to be happy. Later, lying in bed alone in the house that was fully mine now, I thought about the past year. The pain, the betrayal, the slow climb back to trusting myself and others. I thought about Olivia, probably lying in her studio apartment, scrolling through old photos of us, wondering where it all went wrong. I thought about Reid, already on to his next conquest, leaving damaged people in his wake. But mostly I thought about the man I'd become. Stronger, wiser, no longer naive about trust but not cynical either. I'd learned that being a good man doesn't mean being a doormat. That respecting someone's freedom doesn't mean accepting betrayal. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from someone who doesn't value you. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. She still tried sometimes, usually late at night when loneliness made her desperate. I saw you have a new girlfriend. I hope she treats you well. I'm sorry I couldn't be who you needed. I read it, felt nothing, and deleted it without responding. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. Her healing, her growth, her regrets, those were hers to carry now. I set my phone down and closed my eyes, thinking about tomorrow. Sarah and I were going hiking, then grabbing lunch at this new place she'd found. Simple plans. Happy plans. Plans that didn't involve checking phones or questioning motives or wondering if I was being lied to. The man I'd been a year ago would have been destroyed by what Olivia did. The man I'd become knew that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for your best life. She'd thought she was choosing freedom when she chose Marcus over me. Instead, she'd chosen isolation while I'd chosen growth. I fell asleep that night with a smile on my face, dreaming not of what I'd lost but of what I'd gained. My dignity, my self-respect, and the knowledge that I would never again settle for someone who didn't choose me with their whole heart. The story of John and Olivia Andrew ended not with reconciliation or revenge, but with something better: indifference. She'd become a footnote in my story instead of the main character. And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all.